thick it can possibly can. Alright, let's start. RP to M. Okay. The vanilla folder. Alright. 3. That font looks kind of familiar. RE4! RE4! Are you serious? That's what was starting off? Oh, hell yeah! Resident Evil 4! Oh, shit. It's true.
I've located baby eagle.
Oh, okay. Oh, Ashley! Alright. Oh, we're gonna get Las Plagas? Oh shit, this looks pretty dope.
Guess you, me. Big Durang is spud to vacation, eh?
Oh. The Coelhos! Ada? Ooh, Mendes! Yo.
You will receive our most sacred body. It begins now.
Oh, jeez. Resident Evil 4 Remake. Jeez, that's what they're starting off with. Okay. Alright.
Just forget what happened that night. The pain. Even for a second. This time, it can be different. It has to.
March 24th. Alright. Okay, okay. I'll be down. VR2 content. Oh, okay. Alright. As soon as I saw the familiar fucking, like, numbers and notes for, this first 5 seconds, right? I was kind of a little bit blown away that, like, oh, this is gonna be Resident Evil, right? But, now this is, like, RE4, right? And I thought it was gonna be, like, Village DLC for a second, right? But then you hear, like, the Mexican, like, you know, the Mexican, like, Latin European music, like, in the background, and it's like, what Resident Evil technically kind of, like, has that, and that's, Resident Evil 4, because it is set in, like, yes, a European village, but everybody was speaking, like, you know, everybody was speaking in, Spanish, like, probably butchering this, Portuguese, but, yeah, right, like, it's going to be Resident Evil 4 Remake, right? I'll say it, right? I'll say it, right? Although I am happy for Resident Evil 4 Remake, but I feel like Capcom shouldn't have done that for Resident Evil 4 Remake because, right, Resident Evil, an already, like, perfect masterpiece of a video game, right? Like, and everybody's gotta understand this, right? In the time that Resident Evil 4, at least, like, in terms of lore and, like, continuity that takes place in Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 4 is, like, an offshoot, like, game that doesn't deal with the matters of, like, Umbrella's taking over. There's always a zombie apocalypse, right? Resident Evil 4 was a much more self-aware and a very transformative video game, not just to, like, you know, the survival horror genre in general, but also the Resident Evil series, because remember, back then, Resident Evil had fucking tank controls. Like, it had this like over-the-top perspective, and Resident Evil has been doing that for like 3, almost 4 games straight. Outside of like 4, obviously, right? There's also 0 and like ReZero, Veronica, all those shits. But they've always maintained like that over-the-top thing. And when Resident Evil was in development and they shifted like camera angles and controls to, over the shoulder, like third-person perspective, that shit like made Resident Evil 4 like pop off hella hard, because it was such a unique fucking experience, right? You get to like reload, and of course like a lot of things that make Resident Evil like really good is like the gameplay. It's like a very actiony type of survival horror. Like, you get to like carry all this weapons, you have like a briefcase system to carry all this stuff, right? You have a treasure system that you could sell to like a vendor so that you can get more stuff, right? And of course, right, like the lore, right, which is it's not zombies anymore. It's like a Las Plagas, like a parasite that infects like dudes, and they become like mind-controlled murderers, right? So it's different from like the zombies that we know of from Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, and it takes itself pretty like lighthearted. Like, it's not taking itself seriously. Everybody has like quick one-liners. Everybody has like a cheeky comment about them, right? Like Leon Kennedy is like a suave, debonair motherfucker, right? That just is coy, is playful with the ladies, right? And just like talks smack to villains, right? And that's awesome. He's like a fucking like action hero. And in here in Resident Evil 4, the remake one, they technically made Leon like kind of like the remake element of Leon S. Kennedy, right? Like, he's still like grief-stricken. He's still like in shambles after the night that he had in Resident Evil 2, right? So he's still like a walking mess, right, of emotions, right? And they're playing on that really hard. Like, they're trying to make like their games, you know, back into like the serious tone, which, you know, part of me is like, I'm kind of down with that, but this is where like I feel the same wavelengths with Frank for Resident Evil 4, is that why do you need to remake a perfect game with much more grittier and darker tones, right? Now, albeit, like, I love like gritty, like dark tones. Like, I always love like a change of pace of things, but again, Resident Evil 4 is like a really good game, right? It should not be messed or like trifled with, right, at all. At fucking all. Like, it's one of those like masterpiece plaque up the wall it goes type of like plaque video games that should not ever be like touched or remade, right? Yes, you can make like a port. Yes, you can make like a VR like counterpart for Resident Evil 4, and we had for like the Oculus, right? Much more immersion the better. But I don't know, man. Like, probably I'm just like harking on it a little bit too hard for being more mature, for much more, you know, much more adult centric, even though it's M-rated, but I feel like it's much more adult than the very cartoony like things that Resident Evil 4 is best known for. So I'm really just criticizing a lot, even though it's like in the first trailer, right? Because again, like, the trailer could be, the game could be good when it launches at like what, March 24th, 23, right? It could like totally blow my expectations, but there will always be like that sort of stigma towards this remake that, oh, it's not going to be the original. Oh, it's going to be like some fucking what was it? What's a good comparison to draw it towards, right? It is like the Hellboy, right? Even though I never seen like the David Harbour Hellboy, the new one, not like the old one with Ron Perlman. Ron Perlman Hellboys were much more like cartoony. They were much more jokey and humorous. But with the new Hellboy, at least like from what I saw, I never seen a movie. It took a much more like grounded approach, a much more like a very serious tone than a much more very energetic ones. And this is how I feel for like Resident Evil 4, is that Resident Evil, it's been that way since like, you know, since like 5, and then everything onward is like, cut the shit about like action and shit. We need to get back to our roots, which is all about, you know, the horror, and that's good. But Resident Evil 4 is like a game that's separate from the Resident Evil games, in the sense that yes, right, it's actiony, it's more comedic, it's much more accessible, it's much more self-aware, right? And I don't know how they're gonna do this one, right? I am like expecting that we should see more of this game, right? We should see more of this game pretty soon. Like maybe like at Summer Game Fest with like a gameplay trailer, but not the gameplay trailer, but with a gameplay demo, right? Not like in here, but like maybe like devs can like show us around and like see what it is, you know? And of course, like, this is a remake, right? What are they gonna do? What are they gonna do that will be like slightly different, but still the same like core that is Resident Evil 4, right? Are you gonna start off in like in the mansion? Not in the mansion, sorry. Are you gonna start off in the village? In that one like thing, talking to that dude, you see like Ashley right here. You see like a much different Ashley Graham, like just walking around like the swampy European village. So do you get to like intercut with like Ashley here and there? Do you get to like play as Ashley? Well, I mean, you did earlier, but as only like a small like running hide like puzzle centric. Do you give Ashley like a gun? Does Leon offer Ashley a gun? Right? What's gonna happen? What will like take place? What's gonna be like different about this remake that will be like not from the original, right? It's very concerning. Like, I'm much more concerned about RE4 than anything, right? Yeah, I'm just hoping for something that, like, it will be good and, like, take away the stigma that I have, and of course, maybe, like, Frank will have, right? I want to, like, talk to him about this. Like, how does he feel about it, right? But what's gonna but I want to like take away that like sort of like narrow like tunnel vision I have because it is Resident Evil 4 and it's one of those like GOAT games. What's it gonna be? What's it gonna be like, and how well will it be received? Will it be a cool game for me? Oh, there's Luis Serra right there. There's Luis right there. How will they change up Luis? Like, speaking of characters, how will they change up Luis, right? He has a different voice actor than the one from the original, right? Lord Sadler, Mendez, me llamo Luis Salazar, the little midget that runs around in the fucking Salazar mansion. Krauser's a definitely important aspect until you find him like later in the game. Will he like show up as like a flashback or something like that? How will you get infected by the Las Plagas? There's Ada still at like the mansion there. What is going to happen with this remake that will be different from the original? And a lot of things like I have concerns with. Hopefully not too much, right? I'm just hoping that like if the story changes, right? If things like happen in a different order from the original, let it be, right? Because obviously it is a remake, right? But what about the gameplay? That's what I'm kind of like more concerned about, is like, what will be the gameplay? Will you still have like the suitcase element? Will you still have like that weapon versatility, right? Oh! What about the merchant? All these like major plots coming in with this trailer, and where's the goddamn merchant, right? That's the also another important thing about this fucking game is the merchante in Resident Evil 4. Welcome! Got some rare items for you, stranger. What's gonna happen to the merchant? Is he gonna be replaced by the Duke, the fat ass fucking cousin? Even though like it takes place, you know, even though Resident Evil 4 takes place before 8, but how is the merchant going to be? Because the merchant was a fan favorite for everybody playing Resident Evil 4, and I'm scared if they'll like change him up, right? I want him to be like the same, but obviously that's not going to be the case. Shit. But yeah, like, I'm just kind of concerned, kind of excited. Characters get a little bit revamped, all that stuff. Characters look good. Ashley looks good, even though she's, well, that's a bad sentence in and of itself, right? Because Ashley Graham is like, what, 16? Leon is like, what, like in his like late 30s? No, not late 30s, early 30s. He's a veteran man. So I want to see. So I want to see how they'll like change up everything for Resident Evil 4, right? I want to see. And of course, you know, Resident Evil 8 VR support, like finally, that's like a good thing. Because right, everybody was like asking for RE8 VR support for like the longest of time, and it never got that, hint, even though there is already, you know, VR headsets, right? And Capcom could have just like, you know, done with that, but I guess they just wanted to make Resident Evil the game first, and then all of that like fluff stuff later, which kinda is still weird to me, right? Like, they should have made VR support for 8 like day 1, frame 1. You know what I mean? Like, shouldn't have like delayed it for like God knows how long, you know? But that's like Resident Evil 4 remake. Oh,